It was another massive week of NRL Supercoach for round 10, and it's going to be very, very interesting heading into round 11 how my team plays out, because I do have 4 Dolphins currently in all at a decent price, and really I think I'm going to just make a decent 17 there and hopefully can still make some ranks. But thankfully for me, I've saved a fair few trades. I'm on 28 at the moment. You see here I'm down to 25, and that's me with me using a boost this week to be able to get a good 17 on the park. And then you can imagine next week the team's going to be pretty stacked with those 4 Dolphins guys coming back. I actually have no Warriors players in my side. So I think, yeah, if I can hold rank this week or be somewhere close to that, if I can potentially make a few, even better. But yeah, then from the next few weeks there, setting up towards the bye. But round 12, I think is going to be huge for me, just if I can pick the right bench, because I'm going to have a lot of decent players in there, probably sort of 20 to pick from, I'd say. And then sort of round 13 onwards, being able to set up really well, having saved a bunch of trades. And if I use the boost this week, that'll leave me with 1 remaining. But remember, guys, in round 13, you do get 3 trades, same with 16 and 19. So I think 3 should be enough anyway without having to use a boost. So I think saving 1 of those is going to be really worthwhile, and we'll set ourselves up well. But 1296 is our score in round 10. It was a cracker. We had Hines as captain, as most teams did, especially in that top 1%, which I'm in, which is awesome, and a season rank of 1294. So in a really, really good position, guys. Team value at 14,225,000. We're up there with some, of the top sort of top 100, top 200 in terms of team value as well. I've seen a few people below me in terms of their team value, which is good news for my squad, and shows how, like, over this bye period, it's going to be really important, I think, to be able to have a high team value and probably 20, 21 good players, really. Probably 4 or 5 kind of cheapies or guys that have failed, really. Like, we're all going to have 1 or 2 of Moale and Ben Medok-Masila, the Couchmans, these kind of players there. And then mixing in like an Alamotti or something like that isn't probably worth playing each and every week, but that's where you're at in that one there. So 1296, a good score overall. Let's get into my team last week and how we went, and then we'll get into my trades and the buy, hold, sell heading into this week. So my squad here is Taps up top, so 63, did a solid one. Hosking as well, 67. We'll take both of those scores for those guys. Hosking just ripped in with the tackles and a few runs, but mainly just getting in the defensive side, which is solid, and he'll be an interesting one over the next bunch of weeks, what we do with Hosking in round 13. I'm sitting there with my round 13 team needing some second row forwards, so it'll be interesting to see my trades this week, which I'll show you in a sec, and I'll show you where we're set up towards round 13 and 14 there as well. Wilton, another try. So we've been waiting all season for him, and we almost traded him out, or thought about it anyway, after his low score a couple of weeks ago, and then he's gone 200s in a row, which has been awesome. Mulatalo I brought in this week, and hoping and thinking that the Sharks would come out and win this game, win well, and obviously Nico as captain as well. But thankfully, having Wilton and Mulatalo, they were both able to score a try, even in that loss. So for them to only score 3 tries in that one, and 2 of them to go to my players, it worked out really well. Okay, Jeremy Marshall-King has been absolute godsend. He's been amazing in that hooking position. Grant's in there doing just fine, and I traded Grant to Marshall-King, and that worked out great for me. Gilbert, I said he would have a bit of a bounce back this week, and 62 for him. It was a good game. My thoughts with him, it's very interesting on what's going to happen with the origin side for Queensland. Does he get picked in that? Because if he doesn't, he's obviously great coverage, but is it worth potentially holding him up until that point? There's the guy down a little bit lower, having Welch. I think I would trade before the great man Tom Gilbert. I think that Tommy can score better than Welchie. Obviously a bit more expensive, but even if they do both miss 13, I could just trade Gilbert. But I think it's probably worth holding, just with them having so many forwards, and it's probably going to be a mix between him, Cotter, people talking about Horsburgh, these types of players there. So yeah, interesting in that. Hammer, I did hold him again this week. There was thoughts to trade him out, but it was just the hope that he could do okay. He did seek a try in this one, which was good. Having a couple of like Katoas and Tabuai Fido, even with the Sharks guys absolutely getting dominated in this one. It was nice to have a lot of try scores, actually. I had Hammer. Jeremy Marshall-King had a nice try assist back in for Katoa in that one, and then Hammer scored his try, Katoa, and then Wilton and also Mulatalo was lovely. But yeah, that's it with Hammer there. Johnson, I brought him in a couple of weeks ago, 76 in this one. Hopefully a big game in the one to follow. Welchie, I think he's got to go this week, guys. 35 in this one, just not good enough. And then you have Manu in there, 86. Brandon Smith, 50. I played him over Buller. Lost me 9 points, but that was okay. I thought it was a bit safer. And then Fafita's just been dominating 100 again this week. Gutho with the sin bin, but 67 was good. And then you got Preston. Cleary, obviously holding on to him. Hines is captain, and then Dylan Brown has just been amazing since I brought him in like round 4 or whatever I brought him in. So he was great. And then the bench guys, we've got obviously Alamotti in there, 32. Taruva, Katoa, both doing okay last week. Buller, traded him in last week at 59. Makes us about 90k, which is good. Then it's Ben Medokasila, Couchman, and then Marzu, who will come straight back in for Hammer this week in this one. So let's go to look at my team first before we look into some buy, hold, sell. And using 3 trades this week, I have gone early on Tafade. And reasoning for that one is more just the fact that I need some extra cash up top to be able to move on from one of those very average 2RFs, and that's Couchman. So Couchman moves on now. I had 218 in the bank, so Couchman moves on to Horsburgh with that extra cash, and Taruva goes down to the great Valence Tafade. You see here in my centre wing there, I've got obviously a great 4 in Mazu, Malatalo, Manu, and Johnson. Hammer as my 5th guy, which I think is great. He's going to cover obviously that 13 and 14 as well, which is good. Alamotti, who'll hold in there, he can play 14 for us, which is good. And Tafade, hopefully that he does get at least a couple of games. And that's all we're kind of needing from him, is him to play 2 more. It is a bit of a risk bringing him in now, but I think still that it's worth it at this point to be able to improve across the board. So Couchman goes, because I would have gone Ben Magpasilla because he's potentially going to lose a little bit of cash, and he's a little bit cheaper, but I just couldn't fit the 2 guys I wanted in. And then Welch goes to DeBellin this week, and yeah, didn't want to play Welchie this week. I think I'm done with him. I think I'm better than that at the moment. He was serviceable. He's had 2 bad games, but yeah, that's it for him. And DeBellin comes in, and I think the 2RF duel with him and Horsburgh is going to be really valuable. Look, as I was saying there, I've got Preston, Fafita, Wilton, and Hosking in that 2RF, and then I had Couchman as well. So I had no one playing in 13 and no ability to drop down any of these guys into that position. So now, obviously having Horsburgh in there, if he does happen to go to Origin, I can switch one of these guys down, or I could trade one of them out. But yeah, very well set for Origin guys or non-Origin guys in round 13. In the front row forward, I've got Jeremy Marshall-King to play 13, Smith to play 14. And yeah, which is going to be helpful. Both of them can play in that one. Obviously, yeah, 2RF I've got to fix. Potentially 1 or 2 of Preston, Wilton, and Hosking will go in that week, I think, or close to it, considering I don't have to this week with all of them playing pretty good. Hosking does go down a little bit, but that 67 is going to help him. Dylan Brown and Katoa, obviously Dillbags in 13. Katoa probably in 14, unless I trade out him by that point, but he's continuing to go up in price, which is good. We can just take the automatic emergency guys for Hines and Cleary, most likely, unless one of them's suspended or injured. I think that's going to be the best way to go about it, is that you can, because it's a 13 of your best 17, one of your emergencies can play. If I have like 15 playing, and obviously no one in the half position, then I just get the auto emergency for that halfback position, which will be the lowest of those guys, which is going to be interesting how it all plays out, because it's a new way of doing it in Supercoach. But yeah, and then you look to the center wing, and I've got Marzu, Johnston, and also Hammer that will play in the center wing in that game, and then hopefully it's Tafade as well. So that would be my 4, would be the goal, and then Gutho in 13, and then when he's out in 14, Buller can play 14, which is pretty nice overall. I'm pretty happy with the trades at the moment, and then we'll work out what happens in 12 and 13. Hopefully only like 2 a week in 12 and 13, and we can sit at 21 with round 13 in the books, and then pushing forward from there, kind of use sort of 12 to 13, 14 over that next period, and then leave 8 or so for the last 8. I think would be pretty fair. That's almost 2 a week for that sort of 6 to 7 rounds from round 14 onwards, and I think that's going to set us up great. And I'm not too worried about trades at all with the way that I've been able to hold a few and not use all my boosts yet, but one to come in that one. So then we'll move to the game day and just talk about a few of those buys that we had. And as I said, I think Horsburgh and Jack DeBellin are going to be good purchases for you heading into the next few weeks, especially. And now is going to be a good time to actually grab them in your side, just because they are a little bit cheaper. They've both gone up about 45 to 50k, maybe a tad more for JDB. Yeah, I think 53 maybe for him, up to 597. And guys in this Raiders team that we want to look at, obviously Tomoko's been playing super well, and if he's he's someone in the center wing that is a tiny bit cheaper than some of those top guns. It could be a solid option as well. Other guys are Garrick, and I was so close to pulling the trigger on him last week, and I was so upset when I saw that he had 3 line breaks for doing absolutely nothing. Like, I saw the first two of them. I don't know where the third come from, but the first two were them just going wide. Him getting outside those guys, but he's still 10 meters behind the line. He would run 8 to 10 meters and then go, oh, I can't get past the line, and have to cut back in and run into the defense. And they called them line breaks. So for him to get 80 in that game was just wild. But yeah, I'm a little bit salty that I didn't trade him in for Hammer or something like that. But yeah, would have picked up an extra 40 points or something like that, which wasn't expected, that's for sure. But Hudson Young, Tomoko, both great buys, along with Horsburgh. I expect a few more minutes out of Hors, and he didn't get the offloads that he did the week before. So 62 probably looks to be about his floor at the moment, and will do great for you in that one. Obviously, round 13 is not a go for the Dogs. But we do see Addo-Carr come back, and I think that helps Alan Motti in this one. If you're holding guys like Perham, I think that's completely fine. Same with Burton. Same with Preston, and Reedy's going to be a little bit up and down. And let's wait for the Carraz's price to come down so we can hopefully pick him up in like round 14 or something. As I said with Garrick, Turbo, they're both kind of, obviously Garrick's more of a trade in, Turbo a hold at this point, if you're looking at him. Baseka, we spoke about him as potentially being sort of that 55 to 65 type of guy, and he didn't perform very well in the first half. Second half was much better to get him up. 257 in that one. You got DCE, Kohler comes back, but yeah, none of them are options at this point. If you're holding Kepi, a low score, and you hope for better this week. In the Broncos, there's a couple of guys I want you to have a mini look at, and that's Flegler. He's sneakily getting 50 minutes these last few weeks, and he should be able to pump out 50s for you at a fairly cheap price. So definitely have a look at him in your side, and I'll definitely have a further look since I made these trades a couple of days ago. He's kind of come onto my radar as I was looking at all the different options, and he's sneakily getting those big minutes. And without Haas and without Carrigan in round 13, I think he's going to be fairly important. And round 14, maybe some limited minutes for those two, or if there's an injury or something like that, Flegler could be that guy. So keep him in mind in that one. Warriors and the Panthers. Obviously, the Warriors do play in 13. They missed 12 though, so that's the frustrating one if you're looking at them. Tohu Harris back in a big way, our dual position legend. I just can't pick him up now, and he could be a 13 buy for me. They do have a buy in round 16 as well, which is a little bit frustrating as well. But yeah, it is what it is. Adam Fanua-Blake continues to score tries, and it's just wild. So him and Harris, both obviously good guys to have in your side. Adam Fanua-Blake fairly expensive now that he's been absolutely dominating. Johnson has been very, very solid and is the third best halfback at the moment, which has been amazing for him. You got 40, you got Ale, those kind of guys that are doing okay. I think 40 is a trade for you guys this week, given he's out for 2 weeks there, and he's very up and down in his scoring. Can get you a try or a line break and get 70, but then straight back to a 40, which is very hard to play for a 40 for 40, hey? On the Panthers side, Dylan Edwards, great last week. Cleary also great. To'o in there as well. If you're holding on to those three, awesome. Hosking, I said, as a hold for now as well. Sharkies Dolphins, we mainly spoke about that game, but Talakai has been great. Last week or the week before was the one to play around with him. I was thinking about getting him and Malatalo, considering I thought that the next 3 weeks they were going to dominate. They both still scored well, even though Sharkies got smashed in this one. But yeah, definitely not an option now with 2 weeks before the bye. And that's really all on the Sharkies side. But on the Dolphins, obviously guys like I have in my team and Jeremy Marshall-King are more of a purchase next week, I think, for sure. And then Tafade, if you want to go early on him, I understand that. And Lemuelu came back with another try and a great score for him. So that's that game there. 3 more to go, guys, and I'll let you go. Thank you very much for sticking around watching these Supercoach videos. I'm obviously doing all right, which is good, and learning a lot along the way, getting better and better each and every week now that I'm playing it properly. And yeah, shows that you can get a pretty good rank if you actually put some time into it. Like everything, it's fun to play both fantasy and Supercoach, I think, for sure. Gives you, rather than having 2 teams in fantasy and feeling a bit like you're cheating, you have one of each in these 2 and just show how you go. It's great. Storm Boys, yeah, not much going on. Grand 54, yuck. Hopefully they do bounce back this week, but they obviously have a fairly tough matchup as well. At home, thankfully for them, which is good. But Munster, just the solid guy in this pack, and Asafa Solomona that won down here with 47. That wasn't as good as what you would have hoped for those that were looking at picking him up. And then Meany, I looked at him just as a top gun, but he'll thankfully likely lose some cash for those that don't own him, and he could be an option at some point with Pat not being back. Maybe round 14 for Meany could be a good one as a top centre wing, and then has that fullback duel as well. Bunny's out. Still think Johnson's a solid pick, guys. Tass have been talking about as a decent one as well. And then you go down the line to guys like Murray, who I do think is a clear sell this week. Obviously going to be out through Origin, and it looks like for majority of us 2RF guys, we're needing guys like Hopgood and the like there to be able to fill that 2RF at the moment. But with a few of them, having some slight worries to go to Origin, it's a tough one there. But Walker's going to be a clear hold, and same with Latrell. I expect some big games out of them again, as always. And then you go to Tigers and Dragons. We spoke about DeBellin as a great trade in, and I have this week so far. Then Jaden Stewart coming back with another 50-odd. He continues to do well. Birdie's going to be solid, guys, but you'd hope for a few extra minutes and offloads and the like, but he tackled his heart out the other day, which hopefully gets involved a little bit more in the attack, because they need him, guys. I don't know why they don't use him that much. They seem to be a link man, and if he can be more of a damaging ball runner to the line, I think, to the line, try and go for gaps rather than trying to bump people off, which is obviously good for fantasy with the tackle breaks. But I think if he goes to gaps and goes to right and left shoulders, I think he can get offloads through the middle and be very helpful. But yeah, we'll work that out. Hopefully he does anyway. Buller, I think last week to get him if you want him, but obviously out in round 13, you'll play round 14 if he's in your wing, if he's in your fullback position. If you need him to play, that's going to work. And then obviously Wakeham and Nofaluma. Nofaluma, welcome back to him for a couple of big games lately, which is good. Last couple of games, a weird one. The Roosters one in the bog. Obviously Cotter with a try was good. Hess has been solid as well. Crichton is back. I'd be waiting till round 14 for him. Manu, awesome work on his part as always. Billy Smith, you can have a look at him, but I want to see him play multiple games and not get injured before anything like that. Teddy is 61, just average. Brendan Smith, I've got him as my hooker for this week. I very much hope he plays. It looked like he's having a bit of referred pain from his neck issues down his shoulder into his wrist and everything there, which is not good. Well, I think he was holding his wrist because his shoulder wasn't feeling very good. So it seems like it's more shoulder issue. That's really all on the Roosters side. And then the Cows, Drinky, he's okay in Supercoach. Probably more of a fantasy buy. Robson, obviously one of those guys that's just pretty solid at the moment, but not really a buy. And then Cotter, it's a hard one to pick him now, given Origin is so close, if he does make that there. And then the finisher, we had Brownie, who's going to take over this week, so I think you need to get Brown in your side. For feeder, all the head-to-head guys, he's a must-have, as always, but we're speaking about him every week as being that dominant guy. Tino continues to score pretty well. I traded Cam Pereira a couple of weeks. He was got to that try. A couple of tries this week, tried the week before, so if you're still holding on to him, he'll go up a bit in cash over the next few weeks. Tanner Boyd's been great. And then on the Eels side, obviously Gutho's there. You got Hopgood at 60, so you'd hope for a little bit better. You had Madison another 78, so he's been great, but very expensive. Penasini 42, expect a bounce back from him. And Jaden Campbell 35, not exactly what you were looking for if you did trade him in, but I doubt many were, given he's in that tough wing fullback position with so many options. So that is the Supercoach video for the week, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. I wish you all the best of luck with your squads. Let me know what your thoughts are on my trades. I think it's going to set me up better for the bye period. Got plenty of 2RF. Front row forward dual guys now. I think that's going to be great. Centre wing seems set. 5'8 set. Fullback set. And then it's just going to be that half position, what we do with that if there's any injuries or suspensions. So wish you all the best of luck, guys, and have a good one.